From complete strangers in their own home to hearing your own name, these personal accounts will force you to never stay home again. I'm your host Andrew, and here are your top 10 scary home alone stories. Starting our list right at number 10, we have The Artist. This one was posted to Reddit. A girl said that during summer 5 years ago, she was home alone one night when she heard the doorbell ring. When she opened the door, she found a man standing there holding a large square bag. When they came face to face, he started talking about how he's an up-and-coming artist and was going to have his very own art gallery in the near future. He offered to sell some paintings for a fairly large price, but she wanted to remain friendly and polite, so she allowed him to open the bag and show her his paintings. After looking for the first couple of paintings, she immediately noticed they were all nude. She was very uncomfortable and told the man she had no money and slammed the door. But when she thought he left, he was instead still in front of the door for a couple of hours. Coming in at number 9, we have The Scratches. A Reddit user by the name of Tony Danzer had said that ever since moving into his new home, he would experience scratching in his ceiling. None of it was really concerning or annoying until one night at around 2 a.m. the scratching got so bad it woke him up from a deep sleep. He would then call the landlady, but she reassured him that she would investigate. The lady would find nothing wrong, and the man would begin to think it's something supernatural. I hear scratching in a horror movie and I immediately assume nothing good will happen. It got so bad that even debris from the ceiling would fall down on it, which meant that whatever was up there in that room managed to dig a small hole into the wall. He persisted on the landlady to come back, and she finally got to the bottom of it. She ended up finding a family of raccoons above his room, and the scratches were from the baby raccoons wrestling. I don't know about you, but seeing a family of raccoons hanging from your ceiling in pitch dark is still terrifying to me. Coming number 8, we have The Staring Man. A Reddit user by the name of KVO the King Killer spoke about a time when he was all alone in his house while his girlfriend was out of town and his other tenants had gone to a party. The tenants that left the house kept the back door open as there was no spare key at the time and they just recently lost it. The man was watching TV when he heard the back door slide open. He just assumed it was a roommate and continued watching. After 15 minutes of silence, the man looked back to his kitchen, which is attached to the back door, and saw a guy standing there in the corner of his kitchen just staring at him. When the man began to notice, the man in the kitchen started to walk away, but as the man ran after him, the stranger was nowhere to be seen. Not in the driveway, nor down the street. The man was simply nowhere to be found. At our number 7 spot, we have The Scream. This Reddit user said that when he was only 12 years old, he was left alone with his little sister while their parents were at work. They did what every kid at that age did. They played with toys, ran around the house, you know the ones. Then suddenly, the both of them heard a scream that sounded exactly like their mother's all the way in the living room. They got startled because they had thought she was at work, so they went to investigate. When they ran into the room, the mom wasn't there. In fact, she didn't arrive home until a few hours after. If that wasn't odd, they even reported hearing the mom scream their own names. Coming at number 6, He Won't Leave. This was from a Reddit user by the name of Spirited Attempt. Now he says that when he was a freshman in college, he would be home alone for more than a few hours as his roommates would leave often. One day his neighbor's driver got so drunk and came ringing at his doorbell. Although he was confused and a little bit startled, he answered the door. The driver told him there was empty alcohol bottles outside his house and that someone had jumped out of his window, to which the man replied that it was impossible since no one was in his house. This is where he made his first mistake. After, he reassured the man that he would check the cameras and see what would happen. But as he was going to shut the door, the driver stuck out his hand in between the door to stop the door from closing. He was stunned but managed to shut the door shut, pinching the driver's fingers until he finally gave up. The man ended up reviewing the surveillance cameras and found out the driver made everything up. Right in the hump of our list, we have The Stranger. A Reddit user by the name of F- told a story where one night she was home alone when she heard a loud bang on her door at midnight. Just for some context, she lives in a rural and remote area, so the only person would be visiting her at this time would probably be her boyfriend. Regardless, she was still creeped out about the late night knocking, so she decided to peek out through the side window. But as she looked at the figure, it wasn't her boyfriend at all. She said it looked like a rough looking, swaying man she had never seen before. The man caught her by the window looking, and he banged on the door once again. She then left the window and went to call for help, but there was no signal. Doesn't this sound like every horror movie ever? The man ended up yelling, quote, let me in," while she was struggling to find a solution. She realized her home phone may have some battery in it and ended up calling the cops. When the cops arrived, she told the man that she was only looking for a friend's party. Coming at number 4, we have someone behind the blinds. Reddit user Bezos' alt account. Wait, it's Jeff Bezos? Oh my god, just kidding. But this user recollected a story when he was about 12 years old and he was left alone for the first time ever. He lived on a ranch which was over half an hour away from the nearest town, and the closest neighbors to him were his own grandparents, who were pushing around 100 years old. He was casually watching YouTube until he began to hear a heavy creak on the steps outside of his window. He stared out his window to see, but it was just too dark, so he closed the blinds instead. After a minute, he heard 3 more heavy steps, which sounded like boots walking on wood. He panicked and called his mom, in which she asked, quote, "Are the dogs even barking?" He has 3 white labs, so they're basically guard dogs if anyone tries to intrude. Then the second after he ends the call, the dogs go ballistic, barking, showing teeth, hair standing up. He quickly ran to hide, but he never found out who was really there behind his blinds. All the way at our number 3 spot, we have the closet peeker. Reddit user half yellow half white tells a story of her best friend's home alone experience. Her best friend was 17 and her parents were out of town for the weekend, leaving an empty house just to herself. She went on her own business, doing regular things like eating food, watching TV, and self-care, until she finally decided to go to sleep. She recalls hearing her closet door move many times. Tiny screeches and cracks, but nothing to be concerned about. Few minutes go by and she hears the door fully open. She was so scared that she decided to act like she was asleep. A large man figure then walks out of the closet and goes to her bedside to gently stroke her hair and face, and then ended up leaving. When the man left, she immediately called the police and her boyfriend. It appeared the man would get into their home through a doggy door. He would occasionally sneak into the house to stalk her and steal items. At our number 2 spot, we have In the Mirror. Reddit user Darth Dregan tells a story when he was around 10 years old when he decided to walk back home for lunch. All alone in his house, the user was just chilling back on his couch when he heard a whisper of his name echo throughout the house. He thought he was imagining it, so he ignored it until the room started to get colder and he went to go get a blanket. While he was getting up, he looked at the mirror that's on the wall behind the TV, and right behind him was a woman in a lacy white dress looking at him directly in the eye. Then he whips back his head, hearing his neck pop, but nothing was behind him. The woman appeared in the side room by his living room, but nothing in the room could resemble the white figure. Stealing our number 1 spot in this list, we have a sign from Dad. Reddit user Relative80 was a man who took care of his mom during her final years dealing with dementia. He mentioned that every day was hard, but some days were just impossible to bear. His frustrations took the better of him, and he would calm himself down by going into the garage to do drugs, cry, rage, scream, and sometimes hit trash cans with his own baseball bat. One very hard day, the man's mom had smeared feces all over the house. He panicked and ran to the garage crying and yelling out to his deceased dad saying, quote, "Dad, I need help. What do I do?" Then suddenly the garage door opens on its own, and in a blink of an eye, he's in a trance dedicated to cleaning the house without having any sort of breakdown. He believes it to this day that his dad was guiding him through it all, but really, it's a sweet story. Well, there we have it. These were the top 10 scary Home Alone stories. What'd you think about this? I hope when you're home alone next that you don't think of any of these stories because they will just terrify you. I'm your host, Andrew, and we'll catch you on the next one, and I hope you have a scary day.